Welcome back. In the previous episode, we created the main menu and added the mechanics to change between levels. In this episode, we will create an extra level. Let's start. First, create a new folder and name it to prefabs. Drag the player to the folder from hierarchy. We see that the player's name turns to dark blue. It indicates that this game object is a prefab now. I will soon explain what prefab is. But before that, let's create a new scene. Name it to Level 2. Then open Build Settings and drag the scene to the bottom of the list. Save the current scene and open the new one. It is empty. We would need to do everything from scratch, including the player game object, if we didn't have prefabs. Drag the player prefab from the project view to the scene. Remove the other main camera from hierarchy. When we select the player, we see that it has all the same components and child objects what the original player in level 1 had. Basically, prefab is a template of the specific game object it is created from. By dragging a game object from hierarchy to project, Unity will make it automatically to become a prefab. By this way, we can reuse the game object in other scenes again and again, and it saves a lot of time. Any changes to the prefab will change the game objects that are linked to that particular prefab. So we can make changes to all of the copies by just editing one of them. I will show you an example. If we select the player prefab in the project view and add a particle system component to it, also the player in the scene gets changed. But when I delete the particle system from the player in the scene and select the player prefab in project view, the changes didn't get applied to it. However, if I press Apply button from the player in the scene, the changes get applied to all instances of the player prefab. So the individual instances of the prefab in the scene can be changed, and the changes only get applied when the Apply button is pressed. But editing the prefab in project view will automatically apply all changes to all instances of that prefab. Hopefully, this wasn't too confusing. Next, let's make some more prefabs. Save the current level and open the level 1. Select the canvas and rename it to UI. Drag the UI to the prefabs folder as well. Also, drag the spikes, finish, and ground objects there too. Save the current scene and change to level 2. Now, drag the UI to hierarchy. Then drag the ground to the scene. Now you have free hands on creating the level. Remember always to add the finish object so that your level can be completed. Go ahead and start creating. When you are finished, there might be one thing you would like to do. If you have gaps between the chunks of ground like I do, you could add an empty game object with a tag that is set to the enemy so that if the player falls down, it results in game over. Create an empty game object and give it a name boundary. Then reset the position and add a box collider 2D to it. Activate the is trigger option and change the tag of the game object to enemy. Now let's move the game object below the ground pieces. Then just scale the collider on x-axis until it is wide enough to cover the whole level. Great, everything is working and we have a functional game where we can complete levels and proceed forward. However, the levels look quite desolate. In the next episode, we will add some objects on the background to improve the visual aspect of the game. Remember to save the scene. See you soon!